For decades, your life may have followed a rhythm. You worked, you showed up, you contributed, you were needed. Then retirement arrives. And while others congratulate you and say, now you can relax, they rarely mention the quiet emotional shifts that follow. Retirement isn't just freedom, it's also loss. Loss of identity, loss of structure, loss of being part of something bigger. In this video, we'll talk about 5 psychological changes that happen after retirement, but rarely get spoken aloud. And more importantly, we'll share gentle ways to cope, heal, and find joy in this new season of life. Let's begin. Psychological change number 1, loss of identity and purpose. When the title fades, but your value doesn't tend. Retirement is often framed as a reward. No more stress, no more alarms, no more bosses. And while that's partly true, there's another side that rarely gets acknowledged, the quiet unraveling of who you thought you were. You may have spent 30, 40, even 50 years building a role, a rhythm, and a reason to wake up every day. You were a nurse, a teacher, a builder, a manager, a protector, a provider, and then one day, you weren't. Not because you changed, but because the world around you stopped asking. This is the psychological shift few people warn you about, the loss of identity and purpose that follows the end of a career. It's not just about missing the job, it's about missing the version of yourself that job gave you. Who am I without that role? After retirement, many people feel an invisible ache, a sense of being nobody in particular. This can look like feeling adrift or unmotivated, dreading slow mornings or unstructured days, struggling to introduce yourself now that the job title is gone, feeling like your best days are behind you, wondering if your time still matters. These are not signs of failure, they're signs of identity disorientation, a normal response to deep internal change. You've spent a lifetime in service, in structure, in schedules. When that disappears, your sense of self naturally needs time to recalibrate. Common thoughts. Many retirees have but rarely say, I don't know who I am without my work. I used to be someone people needed. I thought I'd be happier, but I just feel invisible. I miss being useful. I thought I was ready for this, but I feel hollow. If these thoughts sound familiar, take heart. You are not alone, and you are not broken. You're simply stepping out of one identity and into something new. And that in-between space can feel uncomfortable, even painful, before it becomes peaceful. How to gently rebuild purpose and identity after retirement. 1. Let go of the idea that purpose only comes from work. You are not your job title. You are not your productivity. Your worth has never depended on output. It's always been in your presence. Purpose now comes from being, not just doing. 2. Rediscover what brought you joy before work took over. Think back. What did you love as a child, a teenager, or a younger adult? Did you love writing, gardening, fixing things? Did you enjoy helping others, organizing, creating beauty? Did you dream of something that life made you put off? Retirement is a second chance, not to recreate your old self, but to reclaim your truest self. 3. Explore purpose through service, not status. Many retirees find meaning in volunteering at schools, shelters, or hospitals, mentoring young adults, or teaching skills they once used at work, becoming a trusted grandparent, neighbor, or spiritual guide, joining community projects or causes that align with their values. These actions don't come with titles, but they build legacy, and legacy is a form of identity that outlives any resume. 4. Create a new introduction for yourself. Instead of introducing yourself by your former job, try, I'm someone who supports new parents in my community. I'm learning photography and writing stories about life. I spend time mentoring youth in financial literacy. I'm finally giving time to my garden, my health, and my soul. This redefinition helps you own your present, not just your past. 5. Know that feeling lost is part of finding your way. You may not know who you are at first. You may try things and lose interest. You may grieve the clarity that work once gave you. This is all part of identity evolution. The good news, you now have time. Time to explore. Time to redefine. Time to matter on your terms. You may no longer clock in or wear a name badge, but you are not retired from love. You are not retired from wisdom. You are not retired from influence or meaning. I may have left the workplace, but I did not leave my value behind. I am still becoming, still giving, still needed, and this new chapter is mine to shape with joy. Psychological change number 2, disorientation. From a lack of structure, when the clock stops ticking but the days feel longer. In the working years, time had a rhythm. You knew when to wake up, when to eat, when to be somewhere, and when to stop. The clock, the calendar, the commute, all these routines shaped your days. But after retirement, that structure disappears. And at first, it might feel like freedom. No more alarms, no deadlines, no meetings, no rush. But then something shifts. You start forgetting what day it is. You stay in pajamas a little too long. Time becomes slippery, slow in some moments, painfully fast in others. And your days begin to feel disorganized, unanchored, unclear. This is the disorientation that comes with unstructured time. It's not laziness, it's not failure. It's your mind quietly trying to adjust to a world no longer shaped by routine. Why the brain needs structure, especially after 65. The human brain is wired for patterns. Routines give us a sense of control, safety, and clarity. And after 65, when cognitive processing and memory may naturally slow, structure becomes even more important. Without it, you might feel lost in long, unfilled days, restless or anxious without knowing why, less motivated to do simple things like eat, bathe, or go outside, more forgetful or foggy, emotionally down even if nothing is wrong. It's not about being busy, it's about having rhythm, a gentle, predictable flow to your day that helps your mind and emotions stay balanced. What a day without structure can look like. You wake up late, unsure what you'll do today. Meals are skipped or eaten at odd times. Activities are reactive, not chosen with purpose. Time blurs. It's suddenly 5 p.m., and nothing meaningful has happened. Sleep becomes irregular, affecting mood and health. These patterns can drain your energy and make it harder to enjoy your retirement. The good news? A little intentionality goes a long way. How to gently reintroduce structure into your day. You don't need a strict schedule. You don't need to fill every hour. What you need is a few consistent anchors that help your day feel steady and meaningful. Here's how. 1. Establish morning and evening rituals. Wake up at the same time each day, even on weekends. Start with a small routine. Brush teeth, stretch, drink water, open curtains. End your day with quiet rituals. A warm drink, a prayer or gratitude journal, soft music. These bookends give your brain a sense of flow, even if the middle of your day varies. 2, create time zones instead of hourly schedules. Instead of filling every hour, break your day into flexible zones. Morning, light movement, breakfast, outdoor time. Midday, lunch, creative activity or rest. Afternoon, errands, phone calls, puzzles, or reading. Evening, light dinner, TV or connection time, wind down. This lets you breathe and choose within gentle boundaries. 3. Add one anchor activity each day. Pick just one meaningful or purposeful task daily. Call a friend, walk the dog, cook something new, tend to the garden, write or paint. This small goal gives your day direction without pressure. 4. Use visual reminders and lists. Try a dry erase board with your daily intentions. Keep a small notepad by your bed. Check off basic self care tasks like water, meals, movement, and social time. Seeing your day unfold brings a sense of progress and control. 5. Keep weekly rhythms too. Designate days for certain things. Tuesday equals grocery day. Thursday equals coffee with a friend. Saturday equals laundry and tidying. Sunday equals rest and reflection. Weekly patterns give your brain landmarks that help time feel familiar and safe. You don't need to become a clock watcher. You don't need to fill your days with errands or chores. What you need is consistency, not complexity. I rise with the day, not to conquer it, but to meet it with purpose. I give my days structure, not to control life, but to care for it. So take a breath, make your bed, pour your tea, and begin, because today still matters. Psychological change number 3. Unexpected feelings of loneliness. When the silence feels louder than you thought it would. Before retirement, your days were filled with people, even if just in passing. Coworkers, clients, students, patients, the receptionist at the front desk, the familiar faces in the break room, the daily greetings, the updates, the stories. And now, it's quiet. Too quiet. You may have looked forward to peace, but what you didn't expect was the weight of the silence, the way the days stretch without interruption, the way you miss being needed or seen or simply asked how you're doing. This is one of the most common and most under-discussed psychological shifts after retirement, the rise of unexpected, unspoken loneliness. Why it catches so many off guard. Loneliness isn't always about being alone. It's about the absence of meaningful connection, the kind that affirms your presence, your voice, your worth. Before retirement, you were surrounded by micro connections, morning greetings, conversations over lunch, someone relying on your knowledge, skills, or direction, laughing at a shared complaint, being part of a team or a cause. Once that disappears, even people with family nearby can feel isolated. And the strange part is, you might not even realize it right away. At first, the rest feels good. Then slowly, a kind of ache creeps in. You start wondering, does anyone know how long it's been since I left the house? Would anyone notice if I didn't show up anymore? Why do I feel invisible, even to the people I love? In fact, research shows that loneliness increases sharply in the years following retirement, especially if you live alone, don't have regular group or community involvement, moved away from your workplace or colleagues, struggle with health limitations or transportation, don't feel emotionally close to friends or family or their family. And the effects go deeper than emotions. Loneliness can affect sleep, immunity, memory, and even heart health. But here's the hope. Loneliness is not a permanent condition. It's a signal, a call back to connection. Gentle ways to cope and rebuild connection. 1. Acknowledge it without shame. Loneliness doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human and still wired for relationship. Say it out loud. I miss people. Write it in a journal. Share it with someone you trust. Sometimes naming the feeling opens the door to healing. 2. Reach out first, even if it feels awkward. Don't wait for the phone to ring. Call your friend, text your neighbor, ask someone to coffee. It doesn't mean you're bothering them, it means you're brave enough to be real. If one invitation goes unanswered, try another. Not everyone is available, but someone is waiting too. 3. Find third places beyond home and work. These are safe, communal spaces where casual connection thrives. Senior centers, local cafes, libraries or bookstores, faith communities, community gardens, hobby groups, knitting, walking, art, chess, choir, even just showing up regularly helps you feel seen, known, and part of something again. 4. Create new social rituals. Structure helps more than just time, it helps connection. Monday morning coffee with a neighbor, weekly video calls with family, book club every first Thursday, volunteering on Saturdays. These recurring touchpoints become emotional lifelines. 5. Use technology to your advantage, even in small doses. You don't have to be tech savvy to stay connected. Send a photo to your grandchild. Join a Facebook group for retirees. Watch and comment on YouTube videos or online forums. Schedule weekly phone or video calls with loved ones. These virtual connections still nourish the heart. Loneliness doesn't mean you're forgotten. It means it's time to write a new rhythm of connection, one that fits your current season. I am not done connecting. I am not too old to be seen, heard, or cherished. My presence still matters, and my story still wants to be shared. So make the call, send the message, take the first step, because someone is waiting for your voice too. Psychological change number 4, facing unprocessed emotions. When retirement brings more than rest, it brings reflection. Retirement is often imagined as a season of peace, no more work stress, more time to relax, fewer demands. But for many, retirement doesn't just bring rest, it brings something far less expected: the return of unprocessed emotions, regrets, old grief, marital tension, forgotten dreams, childhood wounds, feelings that were pushed aside for years, suddenly begin to rise. In the quiet space left by a lifelong routine, these emotions find room to breathe and speak. And while it can feel confusing or even overwhelming at first, this is not a sign that you're breaking down. It's a sign that you're finally safe enough to feel what work once distracted you from. During your working years, there was no time to pause. You had a schedule, responsibilities, and people depending on you. If something painful came up, you might have said, I'll deal with that later. I can't afford to fall apart. I don't have the energy for this now. I need to stay strong for everyone else. So the feelings were stored, not solved, pushed down, but never gone. Now, with fewer distractions, your body and mind may finally say, it's time. Let's take care of what was left behind. The types of emotions that may surface after retirement, you may find yourself feeling sadness over lost opportunities or broken relationships, guilt or regret about past decisions, anger that was never expressed or processed, grief for loved ones you never fully mourned, emptiness from dreams that were set aside, anxiety about your future or legacy, resentment toward your younger self or others, shame from past mistakes or painful memories. These emotions can be surprising. You may even think, why am I feeling this now? But remember, you're not being punished, you're being invited to heal. How to gently cope with and process these emotions. On 1. Acknowledge the feelings without judgment. Don't try to reason them away or bury them again. Instead, say softly, this is rising in me. It's okay to feel it. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Cry if you need to. Giving emotion a voice is the first step toward releasing its hold. 2. Understand that healing doesn't have a deadline. Just because something happened 30 or 40 years ago doesn't mean it's too late to heal it. The body and spirit don't operate on the calendar's timeline. They open when you're ready. If the emotion is showing up now, it means you are finally safe enough to process it. 3. Seek support. You don't have to do it alone. Consider talking with a therapist who specializes in aging or life transitions, joining a grief or emotional processing group, confiding in a trusted friend, spiritual mentor, or family member, writing letters, even unsent ones, to the people or moments that still live in your heart. Sometimes your story just needs to be witnessed. 4. Use creative expression to move energy. Art, music, gardening, storytelling, and movement all help transform emotional energy. Even simple practices like journaling what you never got to say, painting your mood with colors, walking while speaking your thoughts aloud. These rituals give your feelings a physical path out of your system. 5. Remember, you're not weak, you're becoming whole. Feeling deeply in retirement is not a sign of failure. It's the gift of stillness, the blessing of finally having time to tend to your inner self. You're not falling apart, you're falling inward, into honesty and into healing. Not just to sit, but to feel. Not just to reflect, but to release. Not just to remember, but to reframe. I am allowed to revisit the past, not to stay in it, but to set it free. I give myself permission to feel what I once had to carry alone. And in doing so, I begin again lighter, wiser, and more whole than ever before. Psychological change number 5, anxiety about aging and mortality. When the pace slows, but the questions grow louder. Retirement often brings stillness. You no longer rush to meetings or juggle work deadlines. You have time to rest, to reflect, to simply be. But in that stillness, something unexpected can emerge. A quiet but persistent anxiety about aging and about death. Questions you once brushed aside begin to echo louder. How much time do I have left? Will my body keep up with me? What will happen to me if I get sick or when I go? Did I do enough with my life? These aren't morbid questions, they're human ones. And after 65, they surface more often, not because something's wrong, but because something very real is shifting. This is the 5th psychological change after retirement that few talk about, facing your own mortality. Before retirement, life was often filled with noise, career demands, family responsibilities, financial stress. There was little time to reflect, but now the distractions fade. The mirror grows more honest. Friends your age begin to pass away. Health concerns become more common, and the future feels closer than it used to. You may feel an underlying fear you can't quite name, a sense of urgency to make the most of time, grief for how quickly life seems to have passed, anxiety about illness, loss of independence, or the unknown. These feelings are not morbid, they're not irrational, they're evidence that you're aware and still deeply engaged in life. How to cope with aging and mortality anxiety in a healthy way. 1. Acknowledge the fear without shame. It's okay to say, I'm afraid of getting older, I'm afraid of dying, I'm afraid of being forgotten. Bringing the fear into the light takes away its power. You don't need to have all the answers, you just need the courage to speak the question. 2. Shift the focus from time left to time lived. Rather than obsess over how much time remains, ask, how fully am I living the time I have? Be present in small moments. Savor everyday pleasures, sunlight, music, a warm drink. Let go of the need to achieve something grand. Focus on how you live, not just how long. Time well lived feels longer than time spent anxiously measuring. 3. Connect with others who understand this season. You are not the only one thinking about these things. Many older adults quietly carry these same fears. Consider joining a senior discussion group or wellness circle. talking with a counselor or spiritual advisor, reading memoirs or books by elders who've embraced aging, having honest conversations with peers or family. When we share our fears, we often find community and strength. 4. Revisit your legacy without pressure. Ask yourself, what values am I passing on? What kind of love have I given? What stories, laughter, or wisdom will stay behind? You don't need to build monuments. You are building legacy through your presence, your care, your quiet guidance. The way you live today becomes part of someone else's memory tomorrow. 5. Accept that mortality gives life meaning. Aging reminds us that life is fragile, and that's what makes it precious. Each breath, each connection, each morning sky is a gift we see more clearly with age. Rather than trying to beat time, try walking with it. Let your awareness of mortality make your moments richer, not smaller. You are not behind. You are not fading. You are arriving into a season of awareness, wisdom, and honest reflection. Yes, I will not live forever, but I am alive today, and that is enough. I carry no fear that cannot be softened by love, by breath, by presence. This chapter is not the end, it is the unveiling of all that still matters. You're not alone in facing these thoughts, and you are more than the years behind or ahead. You are now. So much of life before retirement was built on doing schedules, goals, roles, being the provider, the protector, the professional. But retirement brings you back to being. And that shift from structure to stillness brings with it deep psychological changes. In this video, we gently explored 5 of them: loss of identity and purpose when the title fades but your worth remains, disorientation from a lack of structure when time stretches wide and rhythm needs to be rebuilt, unexpected feelings of loneliness when the silence speaks louder than expected, facing unprocessed emotions when reflection reveals what was once buried beneath busyness, anxiety about aging and mortality when awareness deepens and so does the invitation to live meaningfully. None of these mean you're weak. None of them mean you've done retirement wrong. They mean you're human, awake, honest, and still growing. These feelings aren't problems to fix. They're signs of a deeper evolution, a new chapter where you get to ask, who am I now without the roles I once carried? What do I truly need to feel connected, fulfilled, and at peace? How do I want to spend the time that's still mine? The answers will come slowly, gently, through reflection, connection, and courage. If this video helped you feel seen and understood, like this video to support others on their retirement journey. Share it with someone quietly navigating the emotional side of aging. Subscribe to True Senior Wisdom for weekly videos that honor the mind, heart, and soul after 60. I am not done discovering myself. I am not done creating peace, and I am not alone in this journey. Others walk beside me, quietly growing too. You're not unraveling, you're unfolding, and what's emerging is truer, wiser, and more whole than ever before.